Alright, we're going to talk about mutations. Mutations are mistakes that happen when DNA is being copied or when it's being translated into a protein. Anytime a mistake is made in the ordering of the nucleotides, that's called a mutation. There are three kinds of mutations. There are mutations called substitution, there are mutations called insertion, and there are mutations called deletion. And all mutations fall into one of these categories. Substitution is a kind of mutation when you switch one nucleotide for another. So that's a substitution. An insertion is a mutation that happens when you add more nucleotides. And deletion is a mutation that happens when you take away nucleotides. And when we say nucleotides, those nucleotides can be represented by letters. So you can think about them like A's, T's, C's, and G's. Or either switching one letter for another letter, adding more letters, or taking some of those letters away. So these are all the mistakes that can be made when DNA is being translated. Alright, there are classes of mutations. If we're talking about substitution, substitution can be called a point mutation. So we're going to classify it as a point mutation. And insertion and deletion are both frame shift mutations. So both of these two are frame shift mutations. Substitution is the only point mutation. So let's look at why some mutations are point mutations and some are frame shift mutations. So let's look first at a substitution. If we started out with a DNA strand that had a sequence of A, T, C, G, C. This is a 5 nucleotide strand of DNA. And when it's replicated, let's say that it becomes A, T, C, G, G. So we have, again, 5 nucleotides at the end. And if you'll notice, one of those nucleotides is different. It's changed. So we've substituted, in this case, a C for a G. But we haven't changed the order of the nucleotides at all. A is still first, T is still second, C is still third, G is still fourth, and so on. It's just one point in the strand of DNA that we've changed. So this is a point mutation. So that is substitution, which is a point mutation. An example of a frame shift mutation is insertion. So let's say that we have the same sequence, A, T, C, G, and C, and when it gets translated, it becomes A, C, T, C, G, C. So we've taken a C and we've inserted it right there in front of the T. So instead of having the same order, we now have an extra letter right here. The T is now the third letter, C went from being the third to being the fourth, G is now the fifth, and C is now the sixth. So we have a new letter number 2. So what we've basically done is taken these 4 parts of the sequence and we've shifted them down. So that makes this a frame shift mutation because we're shifting all of these nucleotides down. So this is a frame shift mutation. This is insertion. And deletion works the same way, but we would be deleting a nucleotide and shifting them instead forward instead of back. So anytime you're shifting the order of the nucleotides either down or up in the ranking, you could call it, that's a frame shift mutation. Anytime you're just changing one nucleotide, that's a point mutation.